Welcome to the Melissa Banks Show. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and I'm excited to have you here today. This show is all about celebrating the journeys of authors, entrepreneurs, creatives, people who are boldly chasing their dreams, creating meaningful products and services, and inspiring others to do the same. Each episode will uncover the stories behind the successes, the lessons learned from challenges, and the advice that can spark action in your own life. My goal is simple. Is to remind you that your dreams are possible and to leave you feeling inspired and empowered. So let's get started with today's show. Our guest today is Chris Collier, who has an incredible story to share with us. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Melissa.
I'm excited to talk to you about your amazing journey. So on this show, we start at the beginning. I'd like to know what sparked it. What was it that turned your dream as an author, entrepreneur, speaker, all the amazing things you do? What sparked that, and how did you turn it into your reality?
Well, to be honest with you, it started at a very young age, about 7 or 8, maybe 9. I became a newspaper boy back in the day. Probably telling my age a little bit by sharing this, but it's okay. I became a newspaper boy, and I'd be walking around town with like $200 in my pocket at age 9, 10, 11. And if you know, I was a G.I. Joe and Transformer enthusiast. So I had pretty much all of them, right? Actually, one time I had every one but the ones who came with the vehicles for G.I. Joe, every action figure they had. And I bought this action figure. It was the last one I needed for my collection. And they came out with new ones. So I had a whole another section to collect. The thing is like that entrepreneur bug bit me then, and it never stopped, right? In the 80s, I, just like most people during the 80s, I signed up to do Amway. Wasn't very good at that, but the entrepreneur bug was still there. And in my early 20s, I also got involved in ministry. So I helped plant between my 20s and 40s, I helped plant over 20 churches in the North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia area. And so the entrepreneurial bug was still there. I hadn't figured out how to do what I wanted to do. And in some instances, I'm still working on it, right? Because just because you arrive to a certain place doesn't mean you've arrived to your final destination. So, also was a pro wrestling fan. And I remember at about 8 or 9, I was watching, and he had these cool names like the Macho Man, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. I said, how come I don't have a cool name like that? And I really felt like God gave me the name The Conqueror. And it fits, right? Chris the Conqueror Collier, right? So it fits all together. So fast forward about the time Corona, I did some podcasting early on, and it didn't work for me the way I was doing it. I was interviewing people, and the interviews, the people I had gotten in touch with and were able to attract to the show, they weren't really talkative. I was interviewing someone one time, and I said, so what's it like being an artist? They were a music artist. I said, what's it like being a music artist? They're like, yeah, you know what I mean? And that was the whole show. Every question I asked, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. So fast forward to about 2020, right during the time the virus hit us all. And I decided to start podcasting again. I really felt like I could offer life skills and lessons that I've come through, and then just some training I've gotten over the years. But more importantly, I could interact with people who could actually talk. And then at the end of the day, as I always put in a clause that I don't have to publish a show if I don't think it brings value or quality to the channel or the people watching. So that's how I started to develop Conquer with Chris. At first, Conquer with Chris, the podcast you don't want to miss. Mm-hmm. Then it became Conquer with Chris, the Kingdom Mindset podcast for leadership and business, because I feel like there's a vacuum in leadership inside the Christian world. There's not a lot of people speaking to leadership and to business. So I wanted to fill that vacuum.
I love that. I love the transitions. First of all, the seed was planted so very early in there. And then when you started talking about pro wrestling, I mean, I guess I'm telling my age too, because I can remember Hulk Hogan and all of them. I just thought that was just so amazing. But the key that I want to make sure our audience take away is your journey to where you're supposed to be is planted in you. Then it becomes the decisions that you make along the way to hold on to it. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. You know, Chris, there are times in my journey that you may have heard me say this was a defining moment or this was a turning point. So for a long time, I thought there's one moment that started it all. But in reality, there's been more than one turning point that shapes who I am, my thought processes, my perspective on how I move forward. So if you could share with us a turning point on your journey that shaped who you are today.
Well, like you said, there's not one. One of the things I believe is you don't decide your purpose, you discover it, right? So as you discover it, and it's a continual, like if I want to be real with you, if we use the Greek word sozo, which we get salvation from, it means you were saved, you are being saved, and one day you will be saved. It's kind of like that kind of thought process. You do discover your purpose. You are discovering your purpose, and one day you'll discover your purpose. It's always continuously having that thought of a child at Christmas running to the Christmas tree and being excited to open up the gift. What is next for me? What does God have for me next? What is the next phase of my purpose? It's ever changing. It's ever developing, because if God showed you all at once, you'd be so dumbfounded and overtaken, you couldn't get anything done. So God gives us pieces. The Bible says we see in part, we prophesy in part. That's because you only have part of the vision, because you can't see it all, because you couldn't handle it all. Yeah. So for me is when I switched and moved from just business success, because my whole thought process was I need to get these principles out so people can be successful. And I realized that having the principle without the prince is doing a huge injustice to people, because the Prince of Peace is what really centers and creates real, true prosperity.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. That's amazing. Okay, Chris, this question may shock you a little bit, but I always like to ask this question because we show up all the time and we make it look really easy. I say to my PR person all the time, he does so much and he makes us all think that it's easy, but it's not. It's not always easy. There are challenges that we faced along the way. So share with us a challenge, an obstacle, something that made you pause or stop in your tracks, or maybe you didn't stop, you kept moving. And how did you do that?
Well, I'm an introvert at heart. I could shut the doors, the windows, and not go out for days at end. So it takes something out of me to do stuff like this, right? I would rather just be quiet and have a quiet day, and I hate to say it like this, not be bothered. But so I've developed myself, because this is something I found out just recently. God is taking introverts and making them extroverts. God is taking extroverts and making them introverts, because he needs to have both sides, because we have to desire the time alone with God. We have to desire being with people to share who God is, because they're not going to find him on their own. Everyone needs a little bit of help. Everyone needs a little bit of guidance. So that is a key, is like balancing life, just balancing who you are as a person. If you have a strong personality, holding it back some so people don't get intimidated or overwhelmed by you. And if you have a small personality, extending yourself some and expanding who you are.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. Let me reset for a moment. This is the Melissa Banks Show. Our guest today is Chris Collier. Okay, Chris, let's talk about someone who's listening right now, who, because I believe starting is the hardest part. So how many times have you talked to someone who's been wanting to start? Every time you talk to them, they're talking about what they want to do, but it still stays right here. But they're listening to you right now, and they hear your journey. So what advice would you give them to just take that first step toward their dream?
Just do it. My thing is, don't go for motivation, go for mindset. Motivation comes and goes. Mindset stays. Build yourself up, get people around you that believe in you, or at least believe in who you are. And then you can start to do the thing that you're called to do, that you believe you're supposed to do. Just take a step. Look, it's not going to be perfect. Don't wait for all the right equipment. Don't wait for the right camera if you're doing podcasting. Don't wait for the right microphone. Do it anyway. Do it on your cell phone if you have to. But whatever you do, do it. Make a step forward. If you're a writer and you're trying to write a book, release something as quickly as possible, because the first thing is always the hardest step, but it might not be the hardest thing you have going in front of you. There's a book out called Eat That Frog, and you got to eat the frog first before you can get on with the rest of your day. If you make the most uncomfortable thing your first part of your first day, the rest of it's going to be easy. As far as you know, it's going to be easy, right? So if you eat the frog first, you can get on with the rest of your life. And so when you have something that's challenging you or attempting to stop you, just go ahead head on and move forward. Because the end of the day is you don't know what other hard things are in store for you, right? We don't know what the roads are going to be like. We don't know what car accidents or tornadoes or whatever is in front of us for the rest of the day. So go and find the worst thing you can find that you have to get done and get it done. Just take action. Imperfect action beats over planning every time.
Oh, wow. You know what, Chris, once a couple of, you said so much right there, so many nuggets there. But one of the things you did say that I 100% agree with is motivation is something, and I'm a motivational speaker. I believe in motivating. I am a self-motivator as well. But I do know that motivation is consistent because you lose it. So you have to keep motivating. Mindset, that was so huge for me when you said that, because it's your mindset that stays, and it's where you start. That is powerful. I want to make sure our audience caught that and did not miss that. Another thing you said that was the first time for me to hear someone say was, take that hardest thing and do it first. And now you've accomplished that and you can keep moving. And the biggest key is to just do it. Love that. Thank you for that. So, Chris, what was one of the most important lessons? You've had an amazing journey. So, what's one of the most important lessons that have shaped your perspective today?
That is an excellent question. When I'm asked questions like this, I always say this: get addicted to the process. You don't like the process. It's like when you were in school, if you played sports, you always had your spring training or your beginning of the season, getting in shape. No one liked that. But what I found as one is getting into shape. You got to get addicted to it, because when you get in season shape, you're ready to play the game. And when you're ready to play the game, if you're in season shape, you're in mental shape too. You know what to look for on the court or field, depending on what you're playing, or pitch if you're playing soccer, or green if you're playing golf. You know what to look for. You know what's supposed to happen. So you got to get yourself in that shape. So just as in that, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, an author, a podcaster, a media person, you got to get in shape, right? And we have to get ourselves in the shape. And guess what? I'll tell you, unlike any sport I've played, entrepreneurship is a sport that is always changing and developing. Your exercises for this journey are always changing. The way you get in shape for the season is always changing, and the requirements of your season are always changing. And it's okay, because it's like life. It's always changing. And so, to quote my grandma, if you're not learning, you're dying. So you got to get addicted to the process of ever learning, ever changing who you are, and making yourself more than what you were previously, because the demands are always more, because there's more, hopefully, of God in you, and you can share more of that with more people.
Wow, you heard it, folks. Get addicted to the process. Well, you're dropping some gems here today, Chris. Thank you for that. So, Chris, your work makes such a difference. Your books, your trainings, your teachings, your podcasts. How do you hope your products and services and your message will impact the lives of others?
Well, because we're taking people from, see, I don't have a business. I don't have a podcast. I don't have books. I'm stewarding these things. They were given to me by God. And so God has a business, God has a podcast, God has these books that just happen to have my name on them. He put them through me. So my goal is to expand God's kingdom on the earth through the sharing of the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and to get people to change from church to kingdom. There's a difference. The church is in the kingdom, and we need to have this mindset that we're called to occupy until Jesus comes back. And that word isn't just sit around and wait. It's to take ground every day until Jesus comes back. So my goal is to help people find their purpose, their passion, so they can walk in power and expand the kingdom the way they're called to.
Well, purpose, passion, and power. That is huge, Chris. Thank you for that. And finally, Chris, I want to talk about the days that are not great. As entrepreneurs, as we work hard, but every day we don't wake up giggly and excited about facing. And you mentioned earlier, entrepreneurship is not an easy road when you decide on that road. So how do you stay focused and motivated on your goals, even on those days that it's tough?
That is a wonderful question. The way I do it is I try to do stuff in batches, and in I have systemized my process, right? So on Mondays, typically I'm in the studio doing my content, trying to do what I can and need to do for the week. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes life gets in the way. You can't do it. So there's always Tuesday. But the thing is I always try to focus and really apply myself on certain days so I can get the content done. And then I try to bank it, right? So just because I've done it, I try to put it in a bank so I'm a couple weeks ahead. So when life does happen, when I have to go on a trip, when someone's in the hospital, I have to go visit them, whatever the case may be, I have extra I can pull from and just put it in place and populate and propagate my system, because I've created a system that can go on for a while without me. Mm-hmm. So the thing is like you want to leverage as much as possible your time, because the one thing you don't want to do is clock in and out, in and out. You don't want to get paid by the hour. You want to get paid. And good thing about YouTube and podcasts, they're semi-passive income. You do them once, and they go on in perpetuity to get you income, followers, sales from your books, coaching, etc., etc. So this is important because as you get older, you don't want to do as much. You want to scale back a little bit. There are things you want to do, but you want to spend more time with family and friends and etc. So you don't want to be stuck in front of a podcast mic and camera all day, or you don't want to be stuck on a Zoom call. You don't want to be traveling all over the world just meeting with people for business sake. You want to do something meaningful, something that instead of just respect, you want to do something that leaves a legacy, right? So that's kind of how I'm changing. And so when things don't go the way I want, and trust me, for a couple months this year, they've started that way, but we've got them reeled in, because sooner or later you're going to stumble upon, if you keep trying, you're going to stumble across success if you keep trying. And so those bad days might outnumber your good at the beginning, but over time you learn, when you become addicted to the process will bring you out like pure gold.
Oh, wow. That was so huge. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Thank you, Chris, for all of this amazing. There are some nuggets here from beginning to end. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know how our audience can stay connected with you and support all that you do.
Well, the best place is conquerwithchris.com. That's my website. They can find all my podcasts in there and my blogs. And we just want to help people find what's best for them and how they can move forward in life, making the impact, income, and lifestyle they want, influencing others for the cause of Jesus.
Well, thank you again for being here. And thank you to our audience for joining us for the Melissa Banks Show. I hope today's conversation with Chris Collier reminded you that your dreams are within reach, no matter where you're starting. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, saying your journey is unique, your dreams are valid, and you have the power to design the life you love. So keep believing, keep growing, and keep shining. Until next time.